think I'd like to see maybe a little bit more action around some of the bolt-action rifles, because I think in this map specifically, because it's so large, you really can take advantage of those sniper rifles in the right situation.
Now, anyone who knows me knows I'm a ridiculous fan of things like bolt-action rifles, or anything along those aspects. I love seeing that sort of gameplay, because I'm more an infantry person. You know, everyone in Battlefield seems to have their own type of how I like to play it. For me, I'm all about that life. And seeing already how they're kind of working in that nice little element that's just below that plane right there is so mounted, just taking the scenic route over the top. It just excites me incredibly. There's so many ways to play this game, and at the moment we're going to find out exactly how these guys approach it. Already though, GNA going to their, you know, different sides. So the Ottoman Empire finds one, and the British Empire finds the other. But it's all about those middle points. How do they approach it? How do they get themselves into it? How do they cap those flags?
Yeah, and I mean, like, looking at what we've got going on up in the sky, you might think that they don't really get themselves in the battle. But if they're going for a strafing run on some of those objectives that are in the town there, maybe they get some destruction going on, they destroy a house, that gets rid of the cover. Maybe that sort of makes an inroad for their own team. So sometimes it might look like they're not doing much up there to help the people on the ground, but invariably they're doing some sort of damage that will have an effect on you at some point. It looks like we're all running in to the infantry area here, and definitely taking good advantage of it, because from what we're looking at, it is a very well-designed section of the map, and looking at it, it is rather beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I absolutely love this. They're all going in for C. That's the point at the moment. That's the heavily contested area. You can see the madness going down in this village area. You've got the sniper up on the roofs. You've got the assault classes running around the bottom. But there is that definitely they're utilizing, even words are hard, on those rock edges. You can really play around them and build off the back of it. And really, the terrain allows you so many more options. You don't want to be, highlighting yourself over the skylines. You want to be running just in front of the defilade almost. This changes so many aspects here, but let's see how these initial kind of back and forths have gone down.
Oh, we were just about, we've seen there.
Have we got a flamethrower?
I think we might have a flamethrower there.
We've got to find who's that on, hopefully.
We need to try and get some footage of that, especially not only the flamethrower, but we do have the sentry, which is the walking tank, as it's
the dad's strength.
And we've got the tank hunter as well, which actually is on a point of the map that we haven't seen a huge amount of. The tank hunter on Sinai Desert is it's hidden away right in the middle of the desert underneath some cover, and you can pick up the anti-tank rifle there. You do have to go a long way to get it.
So it is a commitment.
Yeah, definitely a commitment, but you might, with an anti-tank rifle, it's almost a big, massive sniper rifle with armor-piercing rounds in it. You're going to be firing from perhaps a much further distance, so maybe you can use some of that cover that's out there, those big sand dunes, to really sort of disguise the fact that you're running around with an anti-tank rifle.
You know, if any of these players have their headset off, you're going to make them all go and look for that now. I hope you're happy with yourself. You've encouraged these guys to go wander into the desert. They're going to be in trouble. Hopefully no sandstorm happens. But back into the action, that is going to be an incredible factor if it comes in. That's actually one of the classes I've not seen yet, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think, like, from what we have seen of it, it's only been very brief. I mean, I did get a small chance to have a look at it, and it is a rather dauntingly sized rifle. And it can only be fired in prone.
Everything. How you use it, and you have to prone with it, right?
You can only use it in prone, or if you prop it up against cover. You can't just be running with this thing and then fire it. It's got so much recoil to it that DICE have designed it so you can only fire it, essentially, with the bipod deployed.
And that's the thing that most people wanted to see, is how do they kind of balance into this game? How do they work around that? And oh my word, that horse was ambitious trying to take on a tank. Surely that's not going to go well, and it didn't in the end. The tank's still rolling. He's still happy chugging along. I don't think he even realised what happened then.
No, I mean, in many respects, like the horse is what it maybe tried to do there. It was something that I was talking to one of the developers about, is that the horses have like I don't like calling it feelings because it's a video game, but horses do have certain tendencies, and they are in the middle of a war, and they are sort of maybe a little bit jumpy, and they can actually sort of jump over cover if you approach it. So let's say maybe coming up to a small wall or barbed wire or something like that. As long as it's not too tall, the horse will actually attempt to jump over it for you.
And one thing I'll say, actually, and I'm a big fan of this, is how good it looks when they do this. And we actually can come to a moment here that we're seeing is this kind of mantling almost, but this really quite high mantling. They're pulling themselves over this, and it comes back to this again, though. The animation looks so smooth when they do this in Battlefield 1. It feels like they're actually working with the environment rather than working around it.
It doesn't feel like the environment is against you. which is maybe something that a lot of people thought some of the older titles, where you walk up to a wall that's taller than you and you think, oh, I can get over that. And you couldn't. You just run up to it and sort
stand there
walk backwards and forwards, and then somebody shoots you in the back because you're not paying attention. But now in Battlefield 1, you can vault right up over that, pull yourself up and over. Obviously, you do slow down, but you will get over that cover, and that creates like a new layer of gameplay. Suddenly, that solid wall in front of you is no longer the cover that you thought it was.
And look at this beautiful gameplay. That's actually Anderzel coming out with this, so really nice work with that assault class. Just running around, he's got a great opportunity. Drunks gets absolutely wrecked, and I love seeing that. Nice try, Drunks. I see why you're not in Fnatic anymore.
Yeah, he is the ex-professional. He's no longer a professional. That's actually quite harsh. Never mind.
Hey, I'm allowed to do that, all right. You know, you got to abuse him a little bit. But actually, let's talk about Conquest as well and how this game mode works, and maybe some features that people don't really realize. You saw it then when the point was being contested that when they were on the capture point, it wasn't all red. There was a piece of blue, actually, in that sort of, I guess, you know, piece above whichever point you're capturing. What does it actually display, just for people who don't know? Well,
if we might see it a little bit more in the gameplay as we move forward, but it sort of appears above the capture point on the center of your screen, and it's almost like a little dial, and it goes one way or the other. And if the dial is sort of more one color than the other, obviously you're friendly, you're blue. So if the dial is more blue, that means that there are more of your players on that capture point. If it's more red than it is blue, then there are more enemies on that capture point. So as you can see here, we're on the antenna point, and you can see there was a lot more red on that line than there was blue, which means he's not going to take that capture point on his own, and he will simply have to fight off the people that are on it before he can start to take it.
And he's looking for high ground, it seems. I don't think he's got what he wanted here, so he's going to have to take the man-to-man fight, which may not be ideal at this point. He's already got a bit of a challenge coming from the other side. He's going to try and find another route. This is the environment we're talking about. You're not locked into one approach. You find your own way through these maps, and he's going to take himself as best he can around this map and find a better way to approach it. Again, still not in the perfect position for this sort of weaponry. He's got that scope on top. It doesn't really work in these close range elements, and you're going to find out exactly what.
A complete takedown there with the horse, trampled to death, just completely trampled to death by Game Riot.
So let's check in on the tickets as well here, because so far we're seeing 74 to 60, a fairly even game. 7 minutes, excuse me, not 70, 7 minutes left overall. That'll be a little bit longer. So this has been a very close affair. It seems that the spawns coming in, the way these teams are playing this out, has been very even, but.
Oh, what did we see there? What did we see there? And as you can see on the screen, here comes the armored train again. And something interesting that you'll notice, the flamethrower. We can see it for the first time. As you can see on the screen, you'll notice that it's a little bit darker than perhaps a normal person's view. That's because the Flame Trooper, the elite class, has a permanent gas mask on. And that sort of fits the role because it is a flamethrower, so perhaps you might want to protect yourself from that heat. But at the same time, it means that they can't be damaged from gas grenades. It's kind of like a little balancing feature. One thing you have to remember with the Flame Trooper, though, is it's really only effective in close quarters. That flamethrower isn't going to reach very far. You did see there, he was taking a lot of damage from the soldier. It was a little bit further away from him. That was an extremely brutal takedown. That was a rather epic thing to see. And as mentioned, the train is on its way in. On the right-hand side of the screen, by the score there, you can see the train's health up at the top. You might notice that steadily decrease as the train moves further into the map, starts to attract a little bit more attention. Oh, it's interesting. It's at the train station right now, perhaps where it should be.
It's found its place in life.
I think that's something that you mentioned earlier, actually. We didn't really expand on it. The train itself moves through the map. It can be controlled by the driver backwards and forwards. It can be stopped in one place. And it does have effect on a couple of the flags. This one here, the actual train station, and there's a couple of flags either side, I think one either side, that it can have an effect on. So if you've got a good route going backwards and forwards, the behemoth there can sort of take back maybe 3 flags in one stint, which could be extremely helpful.
It really can be, and it does, as you said previously, provide more than just that, though. It doesn't just play that capping role, it is the damage it provides. It draws people in. I don't know what it is about it. It's like a black hole. Everyone just kind of piles towards it, which may be good for them or not. We'll find out. But already, the points are becoming more even. It is serving its purpose, and I know a lot of people were nervous about its in playtest. How is it going to work? Does it, how's it going to go down? Actually, so far in this playtest, at least, what we're seeing from these guys, it is actually turning it around. When you have that big deficit on your side, you can pull back in, and oh, that's absolutely brutal. That was a takedown and a half.
He didn't expect it because he turned around to see the bayonet going straight through his chest. That was a rather interesting. Just a good overlook here, actually, of the map. So you can see the scale of it. It is absolutely massive. Really love that spawn-in animation, though. You swoop down onto the map. It's really cool.
Right.
Even here you can see the scale. Look how far away from all the objectives he is. He's got quite a lot of running to do before he'll reach some of those objectives out there.
And it's so deadly just walking across that really open environment. You will get punished if you do. You've got to find ways to find cover or maybe utilize those horses. As Lars kind of brought into the conversation, they do have some fair speed on them. Those things aren't slow. They can surely pull yourself into the battle, so maybe look at those to pull yourself in towards maybe a more infantry style or sit back with the sniper.
100%. I mean, the train here, actually, is going down rather quick. We haven't seen a huge amount of gameplay of it, which is a little bit unfortunate because, again, it's gone down very quickly. But what you can see is the British Empire have got control of about 4 of these flags, which is sort of put them behind a little bit because the Ottoman Empire came back into the lead there, but it's almost neck and neck.
Oh no.
100 points each. That was a rather epic little crash right there.
He can pretend he meant it by going to the B point. That's it. He'll just be like, that was tactical actually, guys.
He was
Do
just
not
parking
worry.
it. He was just parking it.
And actually the thing we were saying was that open terrain you had to traverse being such an issue. Actually, now that the train's been dealt with, you can see the plumes of smoke covering the battlefield. You can use that as cover.
Yeah, suddenly that becomes like a barrier to the desert that's out there. There's like a strip of this smoke that's going along. And although it doesn't look like a good amount of cover, if there are enemies on the desert side of it, further out to the left-hand side of the screen there, they're not going to see you on the other side of that train, which is an interesting thing to think about, especially because the train station itself, you can see there, has got quite a lot of the original parts of it destroyed. So although it's not exactly the same location.
What is that in the distance? Is this what I think I'm seeing?
That looks like a sandstorm.
That looks terrifying. The train is scary, okay? As a gamer, that scares the life out of me. But oh my word, this is enveloping the whole map. It's just rolling in from the distance. Players are going to have to pull themselves into closer range here. Surely they can't play in this.
Because look, you can start to see the effect already. With 3 minutes of the game to go, with the score being tied, how is this going to play out? It could be really interesting.
Yeah, this changes the whole aspect of the game. This is the beauty of Battlefield to me, that you just get to see this incredible environment change in the blink of an eye. Now, speaking of blink of an eye, you're going to be blinking for a while. You can barely see in front of your own hand. That's incredible. This is going to be much better to be playing in this close range. You might have to switch away from those snipers, play towards more the assault or something else, because that is impossible almost to see, and the spam's coming out. All right, the memes is, thank you for the memes. But you can see the effect it's having.
Definitely. I mean, one thing that the Sandstorm does do is, as you said, it brings the gameplay in a little bit. But in this infantry-only area, it's put sort of like a grayscale over certain parts of it. But you'll see it's still very much visible. So perhaps we'll see a lot more gameplay in this infantry section simply because the Sandstorm was rolled in. And you know that going out into the desert at the moment, not being able to see 20 feet in front of you is probably a very bad idea.
It's not what you want to be doing. And looking at how the teams are currently positioned, the British Empire is actually kind of stuck out towards the desert side, whereas on the other side of things, the Ottoman Empire has a little bit of control, or at least trying to contest the control towards the more infantry. Oh, that was a 6-shot-and-a-half. Stoney coming in with the goods. Now, he's actually the captain of one of these two teams.
He is. He is the captain, and he is one of the best battlefield snipers out there. You'll probably see a few more shots from him pulled off all over the place. But actually, looking at the score, the Sandstorm is still there. The score is tied pretty much at 128 each, 127, 128, with only a minute to go. So this literally could come down to the wire.
This is Battlefield to me. These sort of battles, when it gets hectic, when it gets absolutely mad in these sort of aspects, now that Sandstorm's starting to dissipate a little. You might start being able to see a touch more here, but still, vision blur, trying to find their way through. 55 seconds left, 131 tickets towards the Ottoman Empire against 131 on the other side. This is neck and neck. And look at this, it's 3 caps to 2 at the moment. Actually, no, it's 2-2. This is literally going down to the wire here.
It is going right down to the wire. You can see the Ottoman Empire does technically have a little bit more control. Oh no, it's lost it.
Won.
Objective C is now moving over to the British Empire. And we could now see with the Ottoman Empire, it's still neck and neck with 30 seconds to go.
But at the moment, we're seeing them all stuck on that sea capture point. They brought it back. Now they've got 3 under wraps here for the British Empire, so they're going to start pulling ahead just a touch. 2 are being contested for the Ottoman Empire, so they might fall behind a little bit, but still it's up in the air. The contest is going on. 15 seconds remain. It's back to 137 apiece. I can't call it either way here.
This is literally going to go down to the wire because you'll see C is now being taken back.
Oh my word.
By the Ottoman Empire. What is going to happen? 3, 2, 1. That's it.
That can't...
It came as a draw!